Hello and welcome once again to Four Wheels Good, the only weekly TV motoring programme to run right the way throughout the year. Well, we're determined that summer will still be with us for a long time to come, and we've been out and about filming more car-mad viewers. This week, if you're into classic Volkswagens, then you may see yourself on screen as we visit the annual Bug Jam. Later, we'll look at how the latest technology is helping to produce a cleaner air around congested roads and get nearer to that perfect paint job in John Wright's workshop. But first this week, we have a double helping of Mike Rutherford. Later in the show, we'll show you how Mike decided to spend his 40th birthday driving £1 million worth of cars. But first, though, let's join him once again in the middle of nowhere, better known by the locals as Alaska.
I'm in a terrible state. No, I am. I'm in a terrible, terrible state. And to be precise, I'm in the state of Alaska, which is sort of in the middle of nowhere, which is where I normally end up these days. Last time it was Mongolia, now it's Alaska. And it is an American state, as you probably know. And we've been driving for 11 hours today, after a 24-hour journey to get here. 11 hours we've been on the road. We've met some pretty amazing people already. Hopefully we'll be introducing you to some of those people later on. Well, you're not going to believe this. We found some people. Somebody who's not part of our trek. We just came across them. Victor and his lady who were just here. Victor, what are you doing out here?
We're out doing a little bit of hunting and some camping, mostly looking for some black bear. It's a prime time for them right about now.
Hang on, what happens when you find the black bear?
We plan on shooting it and then go ahead and skinning it, turn the meat into jerky or to sausage, and you can tan the hide and have a bear hide on your floor or on your wall.
I mean, excuse my ignorance, and I've got to be careful what I say to you because you are heavily armed, but you can just shoot bear, there's no restriction on that?
You have to buy a permit. Your permit costs $40 a year,
okay,
and it enables you to get a black bear, and then you can get moose, caribou, okay, sheep, deer,
okay,
and then if you want a grizzly bear, you have to pay another $25.
And what's the hardest one to get?
Definitely a grizzly.
Yeah.
That one is so big that even when you shoot with a high-powered rifle, it still can charge really fast. It can cover 100 yards in a matter of seconds.
Even with a bullet in them?
Even in a bullet. I mean, that's taking out the heart and the lungs. Your first shot on a grizzly bear is to try to bust the shoulder.
Oh, no.
That way it can't run and chase you down.
And, to do this, you're not just a keen amateur, you're a former military man yourself.
Yeah, ex-military.
Right.
And
so I've got to be careful what I say, and with the greatest respect, sir, what are you packing? Oh, gee, what is this? Hold on.
It's a 3-7 Magnum.
Is this like Dirty Harry Magnum?
No,
this is
a little bit smaller.
Oh.
I use this one mostly for
journalists who bother you as
it's more of a defense weapon for personnel, for people. You never know who you might run into out here. So that's what I use this one for.
What, you mean crazy guys?
Exactly. I don't know if you're aware, the state troopers, though, for about a month were looking for a murderer who's hiding in the woods. Okay. So I carry personal protection for me and my girlfriend, Susan.
Right. Okay.
But for bear...
Oh, no, this is... Can you believe this? This is for real.
I have another one I carry.
I've got a Swiss Army knife. How would that get me on around it?
work too well.
Okay, hang on. What's this?
This is a 30-06. It became famous during World War II, the caliber. And this is just my one I carry for my bear. I mean, it's nice and light, but it still can do the job. And it's an all-purpose caliber. It's used for sheep, deer, moose, caribou.
Okay.
I would not try to take a grizzly bear with this though. It's too small a caliber. I'd go for like a 7mm Magnum. A lot more knockdown power.
Or one of those Exocet missiles or something like that.
Exactly.
Okay. But look, while you're packing that away, because I know you can't... oh, dear. Ooh. I've never been this close to guns before. But tell us, Victor, about the vehicle you're on. This is a Honda quad bike, we call them. Do you call them that?
It's a Honda four-wheeler. We just call them four-wheelers or ATVs, all-terrain vehicles. They're a must up here for Alaska if you plan to do any type of hunting. Before I invest in one of these, I used to walk everywhere. As you can see, I mean, there's a lot of area to cover in a short amount of time.
You're not tempted by something like a Jeep Wrangler or something like that, an open-top thing?
No. This will get me a lot of places that the Jeeps won't.
I hear that there's a danger you can damage your wrist on these things. I was going to get one for my little boy, and somebody said, hey, you've got to be careful because...
It all depends on the rider. If you take caution, just like with any vehicle, whether it be a motorcycle or an automobile, there's always a risk involved with any type of... It just all depends on how you ride, how you treat the machine, and you got to know your limitations. You know, if I wouldn't try to take it up some of these mountains, it's not made for that, and it'd be more of a safety hazard to me or anybody else.
And what do you think of us guys going through that? That
was pretty impressive. I was telling her that's the first time I've ever seen vehicles back here, and I really didn't think you guys would make it, and you guys did a good job against that mud puddle.
We've had a hell of a day, I tell you. We've been on the road for about, what a stupid thing to say. We've been off the road for about 13 hours, I think, yeah. And we've still got about 2 hours to go. Back there was, that annoyed me actually, because some Austrian idiot probably wasn't following instructions. He was actually driving with the team leader in the car with him, so he must have been getting instructions firsthand, and he stalled the car. It was in the river and it looked pretty nasty at one point, and it meant that all of us, the entire convoy, had to hang around for an hour or more while his car was repaired. Unfortunately, we got mechanical backup. But if you are an off-roader and you do go out with your own vehicle, I mean, let that be a lesson to you. What the hell would you do if you did what the stupid Austrian had done, which is to dump the thing in the middle of a river, stall the engine, flood the engine with water? I mean, it took professional mechanics well over an hour to sort that out. You wouldn't be able to sort that problem out yourself if you owned a vehicle and you were in that situation, and you'd be stranded in the middle of nowhere.
He certainly has some experiences. The international freeloader extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Rutherford. Well, more from Mike's Alaskan adventure next week, but now it's time for a quick break, after which we'll be visiting Santa Pod for a very special meeting of bug owners. Hi there and welcome back to Four Wheels Good. You know, it's been an extraordinary success story for the Volkswagen Beetle. Designed with the backing of the Nazi Party before the war, it was intended to be a basic utility vehicle to give freedom of movement to the masses. I'm sure that even the designers had no idea how popular the Volkswagen Beetle, or Bug, would be around the world. Well, we sent Pippa Jones to Santa Pod for the annual Bug Jam to discover the car's lasting appeal.
It's July, it's Santa Pod, it's the Bug Jam, and I'm here. It's the biggest gathering of its type in Europe, and people come from all over Britain and abroad to join in the party. This isn't just any old car show. It's carnival, it's Mardi Gras, it's a festival, and it's the Grand Prix, all rolled into one. Let's go and talk to some of the people who make it happen, the VW owners. I'm here with Nicola Teese. She's one of 6 female members of the Buggered Club. This is her car we're sitting on. So tell us about this car then, Nicola.
I'm selling this car, although I've had it 2 years because I've got an older car, and it was my dream to get one that had smaller windows and had the old school look. So hopefully the one I've just bought, I'll have it lowered and do all the things that I wanted to do to it, which I didn't want to do to a 70s.
Do you do the work yourself?
I do a lot of the work myself, such as servicing and general day-to-day maintenance. And then if I get other things done that are more involved, like the disc brakes on this, I watch them being done the first time, and then if they need doing again, I know how to do it.
All right, so you're going to have a go.
Oh yeah, have a go. I fitted the calipers on this.
So do you know many women who can, work on the mechanics of the car itself?
And like you said, there's 6 members of the club, and a lot of them doubt that they can do it because the men seem to take over a bit. But once they have a go, I think they're quite chuffed at how easy it is.
Did you have to pay any extra for the plate?
No, he thought that if I found a bloke called Herbert, I might be able to sell the number plate, but he didn't realise about the famous Herbie film with the Beetle in. So
it's quite a nice feature for selling it on, isn't it?
Yeah, hopefully it'll make the car, and even if somebody just buys it for the number plate, or does it up as the original Herbie car.
Do you get a lot of interest just because of the plate itself?
Yeah, lots of attention when you're driving around. People always notice the number plate, even though the eyes are one.
So, Keith Masher Deal, what's the Masher about?
It's just a nickname. They nickname me because I don't like getting off the throttle.
So what skills do you need?
Well, really, you got to know your stuff about engines and cars, and really a lot of it is on the start line, is knowing when them lights will go down and leaving before you see a green light. If I see a green light on the start line, that's a very bad reaction and I'll probably lose a race. But if you go slightly too early, you get your red light and you've lost the race anyway. So it's that theme, and of course I haven't had a lot of experience with it yet, but we're hoping to get the grips with it. This is a quick, fast car, so if someone leaves before me, I've got to catch them and come past them and then lift off the throttle so I don't break out.
So Dave, you're the crew leader. Tell us a bit about the car.
Right, basically what it is, it's a flat 4 air-cooled engine, so it's very much Volkswagen orientated on there. It's 2.8 litre, as I say, runs on alcohol. We've got nitrous injection in there that we use for the burnout, and a huge great turbocharger. That's what delivers our power in there. And so that is basically the lump. It's a dry sump engine, so unlike your normal road car where you've actually got an oil sump in the bottom, we've got a separate oil tank, and that's what a lot of these pipes are down here. It's just a feed from the main oil tank into the engine itself.
So we managed to catch up with Brian Burrows, the owner of the car. Hello, Brian.
Hi.
So tell us a bit about the history of the car.
We built it back in '92 originally in a slightly different guise. The chassis and engine is the same as you see it now. However, the body was a heavier glass fibre body. Ran in '92 and '93. At the end of '93, we set the world record, fastest thing on the planet with 4 cylinders. And then last year, we rebuilt the body in Kevlar and carbon fibre to make it lighter, a bit more aerodynamic. And we've changed driver. We've now got Dealey sat in the seat, and we're just out at the Bug Jam having some fun.
So how much does a project like this cost you?
Initially, back in '92, I spent about 60 grand or so to build it to start with. And then obviously, as we were chasing the world record, we were damaging parts and hurting things, as you do when you're chasing speed. Altogether, with the Arctic and everything else, over the last 5 years, I've probably done the best part of $250,000 on it.
What gave you the interest initially?
I love Volkswagens. I own several Volkswagens. and there's not a sport like drag racing for getting you hooked, and you just end up, it becomes a drug almost, and you're just chasing that extra bit of speed. So
Have you ever driven yourself?
yeah, only playing. I had to go in this playing. I wouldn't do a full pass in it. I'm not that crazy. I've raced a few, street cars, and I've thrown my Porsche up and down the track a few times, but nothing that compares to this thing now.
Keith Deere went on to win the modified race at a speed of 150.65 miles per hour in 8.733 seconds.
I'm here with Don Jordan, and he's the winner of the Carman Gear Show and Shine. How do you feel about that, Don?
It's great. It's the first time I've ever won an award, and I'm over the moon. I really am.
Is it your first time at the Bug Jam?
No, I came down here last year, and there was 2 Carman Gears, and there wasn't that good condition. But the time I got here too late, so I couldn't enter, and one of them had to win, and it wasn't me. So I thought, well, next year I'm going to come down and see how it goes. And then when I came down, I saw like a whole group of Carman Gears, and I thought I got no chance. And when they said that I won Best Carman Gear Show and Shine, it's just over the moon.
Oh, you're too modest. So is this the first one you've had?
Yeah, this is the first Carman Gear I've had. I mean, I had a Beetle before, but I bought it in mind to buy a Carman Gear because the braking system and gears and everything is exactly the same. It's on the same chassis. So I thought I'll try it out on Beetle first, then I'll get the Carman Gear.
So you've done all the work yourself?
Yeah, I've done the whole of the interior myself, and I stripped it down to bare metal and had it resprayed.
Will you be selling this one on, or are you holding on to this for a while?
Well, the funny thing is, when I bought it because I wanted to get the convertible, but the convertibles are a lot more money. So I said, well, I'll buy the coupe, I'll do it up, and sell it and buy the convertible. And since I've done it up, I can't bear to part with it.
For viewers at home that don't know much about the Beetle engine, do you want to give us the basics, talk us through it?
Yeah, certainly. What it is, it's still a 4-cylinder engine, but it's horizontally opposed, meaning that rather than your average engine where the pistons will work upwards, whether in a V formation or straight up, they're led flat on this with the crankshaft in the middle. They're also air-cooled, so ideal for weathers like this. You might see a Beetle broken down on the side of the road, but usually it's not due to overheating, so we don't have any water problems at all. I've colour coded this one along with the car. It's fairly easy to do. The tinware and stuff, really you can pull out an engine in about 20 minutes and strip it down in an hour after that. So everything about the Beetle is very basic and very simple. All the wings come off easy and the engine strip apart dead easy as well.
What's the scene like in America? What can you find over there?
It's the finds of a lifetime. It's heaven everywhere you go. I spent 2 weeks touring and I found splits on the roadside on original split MP rims. Best find of all was a Porsche 356 just abandoned on the roadside.
So what have you brought with you today?
Well, I was going to come up in a camper that I'd picked up. Nice bay, full service history. But last weekend we were in the show down in Minehead in the southwest. And we were camped out, we had the awning up, and my girlfriend's brewing up a cup of tea. Trader came up to me and offered me money for it right there and then. So I said, right, drive home, bring the cash, and off he went, left me vehicleless. So I'm here this weekend, I got wads of cash, and I need a split. And there's not one for sale.
Not one for sale?
Not cheap enough for me anyway.
Oh, right, that's it. How much do you want to pay?
I want to pay cheap money, $2,000, get a real rough and ready one, put a nice little racing stripe down it, with little wheelie bars on it, that'll do.
So Mark, this is your bus, tell us a bit about the history of it.
Okay, it's originally a 1956 double door panel van. Being double door, it has doors on both sides, which was a rare option that you could order. It was taken off the road in 1964 because the engine seized solid, and the guy who owned it couldn't be bothered to do anything with it. So it sat there until about 1986 when a friend of mine found it, and as soon as I saw it, I wanted it, being the sort of bus person I am. So he bought it and I managed to persuade him to sell it me, and 3 years of work it finally got to this sort of stage.
So it must have been in really bad condition.
Yeah, it was very, very rotten. Most of the bottom half from about this sort of height all the way around, as well as accident damage to the front and rear. And the engine was seized, of course.
How long did it take you?
It's taken me 3 years of nights, weekends, you know, so that's sort of the length of time. I did work it out in hours once, but it was too much to work out.
Have you ever worked it out in pounds?
No, I haven't done. I don't think that's the thing. I don't do that, I don't.
So do you use it a lot, or is it just for show purposes?
I use it as much as I can. With it being so early and having 7/4 indicators, which are very difficult to see from the back, single brake light, 6-volt electric, so they're not very bright headlights. It's a bit risky driving in town and at night, but I drive as much as I can, weekends and, you know.
How many others have you got?
I've only got one besides this one, a 1963, but I have had 37 in all, so I'm getting, you know.
How many have you had at one time?
I think I had 7 Volkswagens at once.
Right, it's the end of the Bug Jam. We've had a brilliant time. This music's being played to entertain everybody. They're all stuck in a jam. Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, fantastic.
Brilliant. And will you come back again?
Definitely.
Nice one. See ya.
A car that refuses to go out of fashion. The Beetle is still manufactured in Mexico, but the vehicle does not now come up to scratch in the UK new car specification department, so forget your ideas of importing a new one. Just wait until the new Bug, based on Concept 1, hits the streets. Well, after the break, the full story of what Mike Rutherford did on his 40th birthday. Hello again. Now then, how did you celebrate your last birthday? Have a few beers? Go to the cinema with a few friends? Nothing so ordinary for Mike Rutherford. He set himself a task that not only would give him pleasure in the driving department, but would also place him in the record books. We're talking about driving a collection of expensive cars totalling £1 million. Impossible? Not when Mike has a mission on his mind.
July 3, 1997. The date won't mean much to you, of course, but it meant plenty to me because it was the day I departed my 30s and, oh my God, entered my 40s. So what does a car nut do on the very day he hits the big 4-0? Well, that's easy. He drives £1 million worth of motors, all in one hit. At least that's what this 40-year-old did, purely in the name of research, of course. It was like winning the lottery, only a little bit better because my £1 million worth of cars came free of charge. First meal of the day was a Chrysler Viper, which at around £65,000 is the most expensive breakfast I've ever had in my 30-something, or sorry, 40 years on this planet. The Viper's a down and dirty roadster. Politically incorrect, too fast, too costly, and I love it. Actually, I tell a lie, not all these cars were free. This one I actually paid for myself. In fact, I bought it for my 40th birthday. A little present to myself for all those years of hard work. In case you haven't recognised it, it's a Volvo P1800, similar to the one that the Saint drove in the movies in the 60s. But this one is the estate version, slightly rarer as far as I can tell, and I tell you, an awful lot of car for the money. And talking of a lot of car for the money, what about this? This is the Japanese-built Mazda RX-7 with its legendary wank-horn rotary engine, don't laugh. About 25 grand gets you into this car, maybe 30 these days. Great little interior, great driver's car. Legendary car when it was launched onto the market a few years ago, and still a very, very credible car today. Very rare too. You cannot go wrong with a motor like this for this sort of expenditure. I wish I could whip up the same enthusiasm for the Lexus by a Toyota. Well, it's very good, it's very quiet, very refined, but it has a problem. It has no presence, no personality. No thank you. Now, this is more like it. This is the Renault Sport Spider. 26.5 grand, the closest thing you can get to a Formula 1 car for the road. But I warn you, you get pestered in this car. Pedestrians, other drivers, women. Oh, talking of women, they like this one too. This is the Mitsubishi 3000 GT. An awful lot of money at over 40 grand, but an awful lot of car too. But for me, it's showing its age a bit, and Didn't like that interior, too claustrophobic, and probably a car that's too fast for its own good. Nice ass though. Oh, not a bad face on this one either. I've got to admit, I'm not really a Rolls-Royce kind of guy. I'd like to have the money to be a Rolls-Royce kind of guy, but they're not really my cup of tea, these sort of cars. But I've got to give credit where credit's due. 120 grand's worth of motor, hand-built, everything on board. I mean, everything. Even cocktail prerequisites, the salesman told me. And not a bad car to drive as well. I was pleasantly surprised by the driving experience. I liked it. Curiously, I liked it. No, but seriously, this is a very, very good car indeed. Or maybe I'm just getting old, I don't know. Now this is the car that has turned more heads than any other car I've driven anywhere in the world. Of course, it's the Lamborghini Diablo. About 180 grand's worth of Italian supercar that makes a Ferrari look like a second-rate car, I tell you. I mean, just take a look at this for a few minutes, will you? And just imagine what it's like when you drive down the road in a car like this. Swear to God, people were stopping their motors, pleading to talk about this car, pleading to talk to me, pleading to ogle over the ultimate supercar. I tell you, 180 grand, well, it's almost cheap. Now, this is an interesting one. Alright, it doesn't look anywhere near as outrageous or as sexy as a Lamborghini, but this is a very, very special motorcar. The Honda NSX. Formula One drivers rave about it. People who can't drive rave about it because it's a great driver's car, no matter how good or bad you are. I know it sounds ungrateful, and I know it sounds, particularly if you've never driven any of these cars, never mind all of them in one day as I have, a little silly, but I tell you, I think I've bitten off a bit more than I can chew, because this is a bit like having all these cars in one day. It's not long enough to savour them, to enjoy them. It's a bit like saying I'm going to spend a day with Claudia Schiffer and Naomi Campbell and Helena Christensen and Elle Macpherson and Jerry Hall and several other supermodels. Tyra Banks, that's the one I like. Anyway, that's beside the point. It's a bit like saying you've got a day with all those people, and you wouldn't want a day with all those people. You'd want them kind of one at a time, so you could savour the experience. And I think that the same goes for all these cars. Jumping in them for 90 minutes here and an hour there and 30 minutes there, and in one case 15 minutes, just wasn't long enough. It's a bit like, you know, as I said, having a dozen supermodels in a day. It's a bit like having all your favourite foods in a day, just because you like Indian food and Italian food and Greek food and they're your favourite foods. You wouldn't want to eat them all in one day, would you, for breakfast, lunch and dinner? And that's what I've had. I've had for breakfast a Viper, I've had for lunch a Lamborghini, I'm having for afternoon tea this Honda. Oh, it's rapidly approaching dinner time, and I suppose I'm going to have to put up with a mere Porsche, BMW M1, I don't know, Aston Martin. Well, I borrowed this car, this little Escort, from former World Rally Champion Carlos Sainz. Difference is, he drives it through forests and lakes and mountains, and I drove it in a council estate in West London. This is the 180 grand Ford Escort rally car. Ooh. Now, this is something a bit special. This is the BMW M1, the vehicle that started it all. Now, it looks a bit retro, it looks a bit 70s, it looks a bit Italian, but this is a true German supercar. The sort of car that will sell for an absolute fortune in auctions of the future. In fact, it's selling for a fortune in auctions today, if you're lucky enough to find one. And I tell you, it was a pleasure, an absolute thrill to drive this car. Might not look outrageous, but I love it. And this, I've got to say, is my favourite car of the entire day. The Porsche 911. Forget about what estate agents say about it, what you think about it, what image you portray when you're in it. This is the best car that money can buy. If you've got 60, 70 grand, do yourself a favour, go and buy a Porsche 911, period. Slightly disappointed with this one. This was the Aston Martin Vantage and I was expecting a lot from this car, but I guess I have to say it's not my kind of motor. Again, very expensive, getting towards £200,000, but too big and too lumbering for me. Bit of a barge. Or should that be a bit of a shed? Well, this is a bit closer to home and a bit too modest for my liking. By today's standards anyway, but the VR6 Golf is a great little car, the cheapest car of the day, but it can keep up with the best of them, and it just goes to show that you don't need an absolute fortune to get a sort of modest supercar. Audi A8 Quattro Sport. If ever a car proved that Audi have reached BMW and Merc standards, this is it. A lot of money, but I tell you, a lot of car. And at the end of the day, a Beetle birthday cake and £1 million worth of motors under my belt. No, it's a day I'll never forget, but I'm looking forward to my 41st birthday, because it's going to be £5 million worth in one day. You think I'm joking, don't you? But don't forget, if you are going to drive £1.2 million worth of cars in one day, you've got to be a driving expert, just like me.
A rather embarrassing little stall there for Mr. Rutherford. Still, it must be difficult to get a hang of all those cars when you only have them for half an hour at a time. Happy birthday, Mike. That's a real birthday to remember. Now, if you go to the States, you're surrounded by pickup trucks, although most of the backs of them are empty, which may show they're a style statement rather than a true practical load lugger. Let's look now at some pickups with a difference at a Californian customizers. Here's Eamon O'Neill.
Pickup trucks are America's two top-selling models. Forecasters claim that by 1996 they'll make up half the vehicles on American roads, but the customizers are already doing a roaring trade.
I think that the truck has become the multi-purpose vehicle that we always wanted it to be. I think that it's much more car-like and much more comfortable than it ever has been in the past, and has all the power and the ability of what the American public's looking for.
Is it a male-dominated market?
Not as much as it used to be, and not only is it not just a male-dominated marketplace, but it's also a much wider marketplace than it was in the past. Our demographics, the younger kids are definitely looking for the full-size truck now, and the older group, it's come to be the thing to have.
What do people want? Say they buy a new truck, they want to make it suit themselves.
I think the best signature to any vehicle is in the tire and wheel combination. Also the stance of the truck. Suspension has become a great part of not in just how the truck handles, but how the truck looks with the suspension. Interior-wise, consoles, custom seats as we're sitting on now, that all match the factory fabric interior. Steering wheels are very high-profile steering wheels now. Grills are extremely popular in the front end of the truck, and where they've literally just enhanced the actual look of the truck itself, but put a street rod type billet aluminum grill in it, air dams, driving lights. It just goes on and on and on.
In the mid to late 90s, 50% of the vehicles on your streets will be trucks.
Well, actually it's documented for whatever that's worth, but we definitely feel that we're in the proper position. They do feel 1 out of 2 in every driveway will be a pickup truck sport utility vehicle of some kind, and we think all the reasons that we're in business here is why they're favoring it. The factory are having more success with the more powerful, with the multi-purpose vehicles, and a pickup truck is becoming a multi-purpose vehicle.
But Tim Susamian is already working on the next trend after the customised pickup. This Chevy estate, a sheep in wolf's clothing, is the leading edge of Californian car fashion yet to come.
What we have here next to us is the latest station wagon that General Motors has come out with, only with a little twist. And we really like the body lines of it, but by the time they get done putting the moldings and the hubcaps and what have you and making it for the general public, it kind of loses the fact of what a beautifully shaped car it is. And so what we've done here is take it one step farther, so to speak, and make a hot rod out of the station wagon.
And why not? In America, anything's possible. It's time for another quick break, and in the final part of the programme, we'll enjoy another report from John Wright and his paint spraying expert, Dave Whitehead. We'll see you very soon. Hi and welcome back. You, like us, enjoy cars and motoring, but I'm sure even the most obsessive of viewers feel a tiny bit guilty when an air pollution report comes on the news. Stephen Hay reports on a possible future for public and private transport using a revolutionary new non-emission car, or NE-car.
Respiratory diseases are on the increase, and the poor air quality that's become an inseparable part of summer is here. With the population of drivers entering the cities expanding at an alarming rate, how can the air quality ever get better? Well, things could improve sooner than you think. Researchers in Germany have been working on a revolutionary no-emission car which could, if it takes off, change the quality of our air back to the way it was in the days before exhaust fumes filled our cities. Here it is, the NE-car 2, the first car in the world suitable for everyday use that gets its drive energy from fuel cells and so produces no exhaust gases. With this, Daimler-Benz has become a leader in the development of an environmentally friendly way of producing energy. It doesn't produce any waste gases, it doesn't even generate carbon dioxide. Nothing but pure water vapour comes out of its exhaust pipe. And it moves almost silently. The engine can hardly be heard at all. Daimler-Benz has been working hard on this new technology for years. Now they've perfected the fuel cell drive so that it can be integrated into larger cars. The fuel cell principle is based on a chemical reaction between hydrogen and oxygen, which makes electricity. They call it cold combustion. So that the process can take place under control, the two gases come together in the fuel cell at a synthetic membrane. The hydrogen can only penetrate this in an electrically charged form. The controlled energy which is released in this process is drawn off as electrical current. The advantages of the fuel cell compared with normal combustion drives are the saving of resources and the high degree of environmental friendliness. In the past, the system had one serious disadvantage. Because of its size and its comparably low performance, it wasn't possible to operate the drive in a conventional car. Now, with the new fuel cell included in a car, the research team have solved this problem. The so-called stacks are the heart of this mobile power station. The cold combustion of hydrogen and oxygen takes place here. And here, in April 1994, at the research centre in Ulm, the first fuel cell drive for a current series production vehicle, the NE-car 1, was developed. In the NE-car 2, the team made big improvements in performance compared with the stacks at the time. This was achieved by using a new type of electrolytic foil. In a very short time, through methodical procedure and the further development of state-of-the-art technology, the engineers succeeded in transferring their know-how from the laboratory and onto the road. The parts from the NE-car 1, which originated from industrial applications, have largely been replaced by smaller and more efficient automotive sub-assemblies. The technical revolution represented by the fuel cells is being continued as an evolutionary process via the careful implementation of laboratory results, simulations and tests. NE-car 2 is easy to drive, and its environmentally friendly nature makes it absolutely suitable for everyday use. The top speed of over 100 km/h allows driving on motorways, and together with a range which has now been increased to over 250 kilometres, ensures that it can easily hold its own in traffic full of conventional vehicles. It has a 2-speed automatic transmission and lively acceleration that's comparable to ordinary vehicles in the lower speed range. The breakthrough of the research team makes it likely that the fuel cell could be used in a wider range of vehicles, from a small car with as little as 50 kilowatts of power to a bus with 250 kilowatts. There are plans to optimise the system even further with the integration of a reformer which produces hydrogen from methanol. This will soon make it possible to use the fuel cells in compact cars. The mass production of the fuel cells suitable for everyday use in cars is drawing closer to reality. Soon, people won't have to put up with breathing the foul-smelling and, more importantly, poisonous cocktail of other people's exhaust fumes.
German technology discovering another way to a cleaner automotive future. The only problem with any of these clean cars, including electric vehicles, is that they are so expensive. Unless you have a manufacturer's or government subsidy, the price is always way too high. But there will be a practicable way forward because there has to be an answer to the ever-increasing traffic and pollution levels. How much more inconvenience and discomfort will be put up with before something drastic is done? Well, let's move on to something lighter now. Well, it's bright red, actually. I'm talking about John Wright's Citroen AX and the next stage to getting a scratch out of the door and wing panel.
Come on, you've had me shaking this about like a wally for a couple of minutes. Are we going to get some paint on this car?
Well, I think you're shaking it enough, but same rules apply. You've got to shake the tin for at least 2 minutes. Right, okay. We've got enough shaking. Let's put some paint on. Same as what we did with the primer, right? Build up the coats gradually. Don't try and get everything on all at once. Biggest mistake. I'll show you some examples of that later.
Not on the car,
Not
please.
on the car. Not on the car.
Before you do all the car, are you going to let me risk a bit?
Can if you want. I'm going to take on that section there when I finish this one. Just hold the can about the same distance away from the job that I'm doing.
It's about what, that far?
Yeah, roughly 12 inches-ish.
12 inches, that far? Yeah. How's that?
That's okay.
But I've got to hit the car?
Yeah, put it on the job. A little bit slower. That's it. Again, same rules apply, just like we did with the primer. Let's go and have a cup of tea and let some of that solvent flash off before we try and load any more paint onto it. We don't want it to run or sag.
Right, that was a great pot of tea, Dave. Come on, let's get it finished. On we go.
Take your time, John, take your time. Don't forget, it's easier to put more on. It's extremely difficult to take off paint, especially when it's wet. Okay. Right? We'll put all this work into it. Don't fall at the final hurdle, right? Do you want to do the same again? I'll do this side.
Yeah,
I'll do
carry
that
on.
one. When we put this coat on, I think it's probably enough. What you can do for a really, really professional finish is do the same thing again. leave it 24 hours and rub this down and apply yet another coat of colour. You don't have to do it, it's not absolutely essential, but it's just another thing that you can do that will give you an absolutely superb finish. Looks like a nice job there, John.
Well, thank you very much.
Just a little word of safety. Paints obviously contain volatile solvents. What you should be aiming to do is either spray the car outside, right? If you're going to spray it in your garage, which would be slightly easier because there'd be less wind, just make sure that it's well ventilated and that you're not in an enclosed, confined space breathing all these vapours. As I said earlier, we've generally reduced the amount of volatile organic compounds that are in there, but still, it's better off to play safe.
Right. So you'd be leaving in between coats, you'd be going out to the garage?
Oh yeah.
Leaving the door open, that sort of thing?
Yeah, and there's nothing that you can do in between coats anyway, really, you know, and it removes that temptation to go putting more paint on and just ruining the job. So yeah, leave it in between coats.
Right, let's leave it alone for a little bit.
Okay.
We'll finish it off in a minute. That all looked very easy. I'm sure there must be some problems that occur when you're putting paint on.
There are some problems. We've got one or two of them here to show you. This is one that we come up against quite a lot. As you can see, there's sags in the paint down here, and obviously down here there's runs. Quite simply, too much paint on at once. Right? Can held too close. You can get that if you hold the can too close. You remember we were talking about 12 inches maybe? And also if you move it across the job too slowly, that can happen. Or if you just simply don't let your coats dry in between applications, you can get that sort of effect. And it's a disaster because there's nothing you can do about it apart from wait for the paint to dry and then get your wet and dry paper out and just start all over again. You've got to rub these sags out. You can't pick up a piece of tissue and wipe them out.
Right, what are we doing? 24 hours, 48 hours?
Yeah, another 24 hours. You know, it just puts another 24 hours onto your job, really. Just for a few moments of carelessness or not observing the things that we've been talking about today.
John and Dave at the Spray Shop. Well, next week on Four Wheels, we'll preview the huge autumn auto jumble at the National Motor Museum at Bewley. Sterling Moss will be telling us about his horrific crash in the early 1960s, which almost cost him his life. And we'll visit the Vauxhall Heritage Centre. So until then, from all of us here, it's goodbye.